Alright, so I played a game recently called Mouse PI for Hire. Oh boy, so straight up, I don't believe that this game could stand out without the graphic style, flat out. And it's fairly well polished, unique art style to be fair, but without that, we're left with a fairly forgettable boomer shooter. And I still hate that term, by the way, but what can you do? I've definitely seen shooters way worse than this. It's average is what I'm saying. So if you really love bootleg Disney art in a goofy shooter with constant cheese puns, this is it. Premier bootleg Disney simulator. But if not, if you want a good shooter, Bolt Gun and Iron Fury instantly come to mind as better games. What is it about? Well, the title spells it out really. Not much to add there. Main menu adds more, shrews missing, guess there are some things which are left unsaid but are easy to follow, like John is a local shrew barkeep, Tammy is a kind of a protagonist's daughter or something, adoptive at least, and Vera, Courtney and Wanda as well. He went to war with a protagonist and she is a friend, I suppose. Nothing I just said is necessary to enjoy anything, but I didn't feel like saying one sentence was sufficient. Really, if you want to learn anything about the game and you are unsure what it is about, you can just look at the screenshot and that's all you need to know. What did I enjoy? Art, next question. Well, to elaborate, the character sprites are in that style, interactable objects are as well. But there is a whole lot of other stuff that could have been a lot lazier. Doodads, boxes, random stuff. Yeah, it's hard to point out 80% of the objects the player encounters. These ones have some attention to detail too. They look fairly cartoony and on point with what is in the foreground. It's clear where the budget went and they did not skimp on the direction. In one mission there is even a colorful section and it looks fairly good too. It's actually shocking how black and white game can be so clean and not start blurring together after a while. Color almost looked worse, albeit I would be curious in some patch in the future what that would act color. How different would it be if the entire game had a patch which would make it colorful? Just to see it side by side. Anyway, aside from that point, I'd point the theme. The PI, I mean. It's not just an afterthought to get some bland levels one after another and put the main character in a trench coat. They clearly could have done that. Instead, the devs tried to add a story, a proper corkboard with evidence slapped on it, investigation, non-linear levels, even a femme fatale. The dialogue is also a hard-boiled detective schlock, not taking itself seriously at all, but still doing a decent job at it. It's enjoyable enough, but don't expect to be doing any real thinking. And I suppose I should mention that I did enjoy the gunplay, which was stellar in the beginning. Definitely really good, and I would really want to point out that kick is an amazing function which more games should have. I also specifically love it when shooters actually put some effort into having the player shoot projectiles instead of having hit-scan weapons. I hate that so very, very much. Far Cry 3 is a great example of gunplay, but I loathe with fiery passion. This isn't it. I was enjoying shooting in Mouse PI a lot, up until the point when the bosses became total bullet sponges and those fat punchy guys started appearing all the time. Some shrew enemies are tankier than expected too, actually. The ones which throw dynamite, those guys are just, wait, why are they so tough? Anyway, there is a balance to strike here between having everything die too fast and not feeling any effect from the shots. Brain Gun is a great example of a terrible gun, by the way. Needs rebalancing. That and the freeze ray. And I do believe the gunplay gets worse over time in general, which isn't unusual in these kinds of games, actually. I think Bolt Gun, if you want a comparison, Bolt Gun does gunplay really well throughout the entire game. And I have hoped more that Mouse PI would be better in that respect, especially since the general number of enemies is lower than a lot of these games, but what can you do? So as far as the negatives go, aside from the bullet sponge complaint, I really only have one serious problem, which is the level design. So this is where I believe Iron Fury really shined, at least for the first 70-80% of the levels. Once it's endless sewers, I really get fed up with it, and the DLC is not that great either. But for the vast majority of the game, the exploration was incredible. Problem in the Mouse PI in comparison is what seemingly the player is actively punished for exploring. This has got to be the biggest amount of invisible walls in a game with such freedom of movement that I have ever seen. There were so many times when it's obvious where the level is going to proceed and I can platform my way there, yet the game does not allow me to take any step from a pre-programmed path. At best, I find a tiny dead end with some pickups in it, but that's it. Exploration was extremely bare bones. Even if there was plenty to find, I did not enjoy it. It's too restrictive, too little actual useful stuff to find, and too unrewarding in general. Only really the mansion in the second to last level was what I expected for the rest of the game. So many ways to go. Also, some enemies were pre-spawned, making for a more fun experience. That's actually another problem, stemming from the level design. In a lot of these games, enemies just exist already before the player appears. If you're fast, you can headshot a bunch of them before the rest get alerted, or throw a grenade. In a mouse, it's enter a room a delay, when knocking starts, enemies come from the door. Go to the next room, and there are more enemies from the doors. It's insane how many spawning doors there were in the most unexpected places, really. Which also made exploration more confusing. And I just did not enjoy that style that much. I could never be 100% sure when the fight ended if not for the music, which bugs out sometimes, making it completely unreliable. Length isn't probably another issue, but it's not that big a problem. After all, I usually complain that the games are too short. This one just felt long. I think if they cut off some parts, like that level in the docks or one of the cinema levels, and instead polished the maps a bit, the game would be a lot more enjoyable, but again, it's not the biggest of deals. I've also struggled a bit in some earlier levels, since enemies get those rapid-fire weapons earlier than the player. And that means that they fire a lot. Duh. But the problem was that since it took me a while to kill some enemies, the ones behind them with guns had ample time to shoot. But I couldn't even see the guys with guns because of that dodge the shots, since the sprites of the melee guys were so damn big. But yeah, with more guns, more variety, it wasn't exactly a big deal, since it didn't take that long to kill anybody, and generally you moved too much anyway. Could also point out that the level with the planes got me killed more times than the entire game combined. Twice over at least. I died maybe 3 or 4 times in a normal game. 5 tops. And the planes was in double digits at least. That just was an awful level. Difficulty is probably another complaint. Again, it's not a big one though. I'd hate it if the game was too hard since there is no quick save, which is extremely common with these games. Seriously, don't remove quick saves from people. Limit that stuff with difficulty modifiers of something if you want, but don't take away our quick saves, please! Anyway, the difficulty though was a bit too easy. I cranked it up to maximum a few levels in, and I did not really struggle. Only deaths were when I fell into some pit or messed up when I got distracted. Mouse PA really didn't feel like it challenged me, considering it was on max difficulty. Meanwhile, I couldn't get past the first level in Iron Fury on max difficulty. That idiotic resurrecting enemies, who thought that would be a good idea? What the hell? Anyway, Mouse was definitely a lot more enjoyable if I were to compare to that. So, that was Mouse PA. It's pretty good. Could be a hell of a lot better, but what was here is still good enough to recommend. It's just that I can think of a handful of titles I'd suggest over this.